Sam, good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Very exciting day today. Not only do we have Summit coming up, I guess in under a month, but I think you've got probably one of the biggest announcements and advancements on your platform that I am so excited to see because I've been a fan of the platform for over 2 years. And this might be the biggest move forward that we've seen on the core Discover. So real excited to see what you have to show us here.
Thanks, Peter. So for those that have been following the journey that we've had with our Guide 365 platform, especially that kind of discover journey, the idea of Guide has always been, let's understand the customer's requirements from a business level, a kind of a pain point level, why they're trying to do a new project. Nobody wakes up in the morning and decides to do an ERP or some project just for the sake of it and the fun of it. They usually do it because there's a pressing need. And really what we need to do is to understand their requirements. We understand what they're trying to achieve. We need to be able to understand how does that fit in with the solution set that we're offering. How do we provide an estimate for the effort required to do that? So those are key fundamentals in how we approach a customer discovery. We have different levels of discovery, whether you're in an SMB organization, a mid-market organization, or enterprise organization. But the fundamental process is that it requires the customer or the partner specialist, and you and team do a great job of this, is working through a set of requirements. Typically, if they're going kind of full soup to nuts, it might be 700 individual requirements. And that takes a bit of time. Actually, it still needs potentially an advisor to help them determine what are the most important requirements. So some of the feedback we've had over the past few years is, can we speed this up? Can we support the customer or the seller in grabbing those requirements? So that's what we've been working on, using obviously AI, and AI is a much used term, but actually we've been able to use it with the information, the data and volume that we've had in our platform. So we've had over 6,000 end customers that have been assessed on our platform. We're able to use some of this data to help drive what the most important requirements and make it an easy process. So with that, I'll show Pro.
So Sam, one of the things I want to point out here, those 6,000 surveys, those are real life data points, not sales and marketing opinions.
Absolutely. And it's really, it's taking those real life customer requirements. What do they want? Our survey are agnostic in the sense that we're asking business requirements. So we're really trying to get to grips with what the customer's asking for. And it ends up being a poor fit. The last thing that anybody wants to do is to sell something they can't deliver. But I think buyer beware, and let's understand where the fits are, where the gaps are, what low complexity versus high complexity. And that's what we're trying to ascertain.
Yeah. Sam, well, now what's interesting is that what you're about to show us is intended to speed up the discover process. Now, I find that fascinating because having done almost 100 of these or over 100 of these is one of the things that we always pitch to people is that this is dramatically faster than your typical on-site consultant process. And one thing that I have found is that on your website at one point, you have the metric that you could save 65% of time and potentially cost on the typical consultant-led requirements gathering. And I took issue with that because I told everybody that we do this for that we're saving close to 80 or 90%. So if you've sped up that process, I can't wait to see this.
So just give me some rough numbers. So on our first release of this, we're focused on kind of SMB ERP. So we'll have other versions out shortly for CRM and also for the larger enterprise ERP, and can be combinations of both. So in terms of the SMB ERP evaluations, on average, we're talking about 4 to 6 hours of effort to capture the requirements. Okay. And then you've got the time to review. So what we've aimed to do with this release is to get that capture requirement down to under 30 minutes. Okay. And actually, you probably do it in 10 minutes. Right? So it's much faster. Okay. That's what the challenge for the development team was. So this is what we have in terms of the front end. So we've set the customer up. We can now start the engagement. And the first thing we want to do is understand a little bit about that customer's business or organization. Now, and this is important for AI to work, because if we don't know what industry, and then we can't refine the nature of the requirement set. So we can put in here things like what industry they're in, what region they're in. If you're really adverse to to doing the drop downs, which I do think is quicker in this area, you can just work with the agent and say, look, we are in financial services with 300 employees based in USA, Canada, and UK. And the UK is our head office because it is the center of the universe. So we can type that in, and so that's going to go, and the agent's going to start looking at information, start maybe populating. Now, I agree, it's probably easier to use the drop downs. But the point of this is just showing that the agent's here to help right from the beginning. So you can see now it's picked out the region of financial services, number of employees. So all these useful things that we want to help drive that initial kind of bit of information. Okay. I'll set the scene. I can add a bit more to it. I can define which is my headquarters, etc., etc. So the next stage now is working out the requirements. Okay. So going back to core discovery, I'll go back to that in a little bit. This particular survey of an ERP, an SMB ERP, might have around about 800 to 900 individual requirements, depending on the module. Okay, and we have to go through and review those module by module. What we've done now is really simplified it. So first of all, you can see we've got different sections of finance, sales, we've got purchasing, we've got inventory, warehouse management, manufacturing. Now, the first thing you'll see is it's marked a few of these are not applicable, right? Because depending on the industry, in financial services, the chances are you don't need manufacturing. Okay?
Right.
So those are switched off. But if your financial services organization has decided to also do some manufacturing, we just switch that back on. Okay. So we can still extend out the requirements that we're surveying. But the first step is we've simplified what we need to cover. The next thing you'll see is we've gone down a route where instead of going through line by line of requirements, to make this assessment really rapid, we've categorized 5 levels of complexity.
Okay.
Against each level of complexity, we've built in what are the must and should have requirements for each level. Okay?
Now, Sam, this is where those 6,000 actual surveys comes in, because you're not guessing here. You've got some serious data backing this up.
100%. So we're using that data as well as experts. Okay. So we do, AI is great. And I was talking to somebody the other day and said, oh, Copilot can do this. It can, but how do you validate the data? How do you really prove? So everything that we have has been a closed environment. Right? So we are using knowledge that's held within our platform, some outside, but ultimately we want to make sure what we present to the customer is based on real life, actual, rock solid data points. Okay. And that's what we have here. Now, when you look at different industries, a different industry sector may have different things that sit between each profile. So it's not just a simple binary exercise. So here now we have kind of 2 ways that we can do this. Right? If you're working with an expert partner such as yourself, you may ask the questions and just determine whether they're basic, standard, advanced, complex. Right? But actually, if you don't know, and maybe, Peter, your days of analyzing a customer's requirements are a little bit behind, you can just ask the question. We can ask the agent, what level of finance do I need?
Okay.
So now the agent is going to help us determine what we need. Okay, so the first thing is asking, okay, do we need, let's start now. Do we need multiple companies or intercompany transactions?
Nice.
Yeah, I need intercompany transactions. So based on that, it's going to go away and think about, okay, based on that.
Sam, a quick observation. So you're actually making use of AI. This is not that everybody puts AI on, slaps it on their old package because they want to sell more stuff. You're actually taking advantage of some great functionality of AI here.
Yeah, 100%. There's not somebody in the room next door manually typing that. It's not. So it is definitely AI. But again, now I can see, okay, actually I need complex finance. And you can see the process. I can do the same thing for sales, receivables, CRM. And we start to then quickly determine what I need. Right? So based on, that's all I really need to do.
Wow.
Okay. And then we save and continue and move on to the next. So the next stage, This is more for the partner because this is more flavor. We can, depending on the survey, whether this is more of a BC service. So we want to get also an idea of what their license needs are so we can work through that and just put that in. If you don't want to use this, we've also got the license wizard in Core Discover that we can call upon, but that's a quick way to do this. The other thing that we've got, which is really interesting, is that capture our requirements, but we may also want to think about pain points because sometimes when we're doing a customer wants to understand, okay, I also want to present to my board, these are the challenges that I have. So we can also look at pain points. Based on that, we can, again, this is an optional area. We can start to look at the different areas of my business. And maybe let's look at order to cash, right? And within my kind of finance and accounting process, we can start to look at the particular areas in which we may want to look at pain points, right? Again, and we can use AI now to suggest in this order to cash, in your industry, in your country,
Yes.
right, what are typical pain points that people in my sector might have. Now, in financial services, my legislative requirements in the US market might be different to the UK and et cetera. So if you use that information to work out typical pain points, you can do it manually. But
Okay.
I've got now 3 pain points that AI has suggested. And actually, yeah, if that's limited visibility to accounts, that's definitely something that I see today.
Okay.
Start to bring these into my pain journey. And as a partner that when you're looking to work with your customer or the customer, and they're looking to really build their business case, we need to make sure we're addressing the pain points as well.
So it's not only specific point issues or requirements, it's more overall business process, business functional types of requirements. This is genius.
Exactly, yeah. And you can build that out further and foremost if you want as well. And again, the agent is there to help you at all times. Okay. So once we do, that's basically all that I need to do to capture that customer's their requirements. And then what we would do is send that to Discover, and I will go back into our normal Discover area, and you can see what it's done is all those requirements, in this case, 742 requirements, it's marked 113 as absolute must-have requirements and 68 as potential requirements.
Wow.
So that's all done. And now I can then do a number of things. If there's a customer, I want to get my rough order of magnitude estimate, I want to get my proposal or whatever that is, we can do all of that. But as a partner, we can go in there and actually do a review. So maybe we want to see what those requirements are in detail. I can go in here and I can look at those and I can start to maybe fine tune it because we may want to adjust that.
So one quick data point. We've been on this call about 15 minutes. So let's say 10 minutes of working in this new tool. I had a financial services company that did the traditional methodology for filling this out. We onboarded them at 3 p.m. and at 5, they sent me an email and asked me where the reports were. And we were absolutely blown away. So we just compressed that from 2 hours, which was, like I said, blew us away, to literally 10, 15 minutes.
Exactly that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So that's really exciting in terms of what we're doing. And as I said, we're building upon this technology. The other thing I wanted to show, actually, and if I may, is one of the things that the customers ask a lot is they hear about this thing called AI.
Yes, sir.
And they want to know, how can we use AI in our organization? And where are the agentic experiences? Where are these opportunities for me to take advantage of this new technology set? So one of the other applications where we're shortly to release something we worked on very closely with Microsoft is to create agent discovery workshops. So what I showed you before was really around a more defined business case, or somebody's definitely looking for an ERP replacement. In this case, the customer hasn't even determined what they need. All they know is they want to explore how could the world of AI and agents help my organization.
Yeah.
So what we do in this case is, in this particular application, is we start to look at, get a bit of understanding. Again, this is a little bit of a pilot release, so some of the things aren't quite right. But again, I can get an idea of the typical size of the organization. I want to then focus on some specific areas of pain. So again, so in this case, I'm going to go into a particular process. So I'm going to say, again, go back to let's do this case to resolution. Okay. So I've got a customer service desk, right?
Yeah.
Really put description there. But in that case, that we have 1,000 cases a week. On average, we're taking about 5 hours a week to resolve these issues. Okay. And again, going back to what I showed you before, we can use AI to suggest me some typical pain points that I might have in that team. Okay. In this case, yeah, we're not prioritizing properly. I've got insufficient training for my team or tracking. So I've added these in as pain points. Well, I would probably pick a number of different business processes. I've also got some issue with manual data. I've got poor integration between my systems. Okay. And then I move on to the next thing. I probably want to build up a bit more, but the next, I want to start looking at my current landscape. Okay. But here I'm going to look at what do we have today? I'm going to look at my customer data. I've got sales transactions. I've got compliance information. These are all the things that I have today. My existing systems, I'm going to put Salesforce in, cloud. I've got 500 users of that. I can put down the reasons why, etc. Then I can add another system as well if I need to. Okay. I can also talk about what's my data readiness. It's actually pretty good. Okay. Once I do, that's given me some kind of baseline information. Again, if I was doing a full assessment, I'd probably want to do more. Now, what the agent's doing now is looking at what are the typical AI or agentic experiences that could help me in that process that are being done. So it's worked through and said, actually, look at this. We've got some AI suggestions. It's prioritized it by what it thinks may be the most valuable things to do. Okay. So now we've got potentially 5 different projects we could work and the potential time to value. We're tying this into Microsoft's AI library of templates as well. So that'll be part of the solution, or if you've got your own. But again, this gives us a real good idea of where AI can help my organization.
Yeah, because I think everybody's excited by the concept of AI, but then how do you practically apply that? And if you don't have good areas, what happens if you apply it somewhere that's bad and then give up?
Correct. And what's going to drive the biggest bang to the buck? So where do we need to focus on maybe some of the core process before we even get to that AI? So this is identifying those opportunities and then working with a quality partner like yourselves to really drill down a bit more detail. This will be released in a few weeks' time. It's sort of kind of show the other side of the house as well.
Thank you for that preview. That's amazing. So this is one of those things where we took what I think is the greatest tool for helping customers with the experience of being a great consumer of a new ERP platform. This is not an incremental move forward. This is amazing. Thank you for showing me that.
Pleasure. Thank you for your time, Peter. Thank you very much. And to keep working with you on this.